And welcome back to another episode of Pokemon Knowledge. Which as you can see right now, we are now found here. I'm not going to be 100% if that's going to be the case or not, but hopefully it is good and just have a lot of fun. This is my new setup. Uh, I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch Rattle's most recent stream, but it was pretty fun, right? We watch Rattle one more time go into just absolute mental pretzel slash verge of insanity because it really was that hard to pull that Moonbreon. I was very lucky. Rattle, invited me to be in his first stream, and that was a lot of fun. And just watching him slowly, that Moonbreon, I think it might have broke Rattle. You know, between mine and his stream, we did 505 packs in the stream I was in. Then tonight's stream, he opened 30 more ETBs. And then after he couldn't pull the Moonbrown after the 30 ETBs, he decided to then, on top of that, open up 40 more packs. So Rattle's into this for a lot of packs. And I'm not going to try to open it on the stream. I don't know if that's what the title says, but I will tell you something. It made me change my thought process behind the Moonbreon because my thought process was pretty simple. If I ever pull that card, right now it's an easy 10. That thing grades, your PSA 10 rates between 80 to 85%. What I would have did is if I pulled that card, is I would have pulled it, immediately sent it away for grading, probably under $30 to $50 tier, and then just flipped it onto the market and get like whatever the $900 to $1,100 that card is currently selling for on today's market. But after seeing what Rattle's going through, after seeing like the crazy hype and demand for it, if I pulled it, I think I would just keep it at this point. I'd still grade it, hopefully get that 10, but I think I would just keep it. Maybe if I pulled it and hit the 9, I'd sell it. But that's such a weird thought to have, especially for me. Now, very huge caveat to that. I am never buying that card. Never. But if I pulled that card, I think I would keep it. And so that just kind of goes to, I think this is that constant conversation, that constant like pointless debate we have with ourselves and, other people in the hobby or whatever. And it's just that modern versus vintage, collector versus investor. Like, what are you? What's your mindset? What's your plans for this hobby? And I think a lot of that, like, collector investor mindset is pretty simple. And I think what it boils down to, and I think it's something we don't talk about enough, is I think we sometimes make it out as if Pokemon investing is a lot easier financially than maybe it is. And the reason why I say I think we sometimes make it a little too broad, a little bit too easy is we'll just say, you know what, look at every single set from Sword and Shield. Like, you should put away at least like one case of each booster box. Well, one case of each booster box is, so you got 12 sets. That's assuming you're spending, between $500 to $600 at release. And again, that's on the very cheap, so for a lot of these products, let's just say $100 per booster box. And yeah, you could probably get like Chill and Rain for 80 and stuff, but we got to make simple numbers, that's $600 a case. And then for what I like to do is I like to get one sealed case of every single Pokemon Center ETB. And if you've watched this channel, you understand, like, for whatever reason, if you order 4 from Pokemon Center, they're exclusive ETBs, they send you the sealed case. So I usually would do like a case of a modern booster box, then a sealed case of Pokemon Center ETBs. And then I have my own little teeny collection goals, which are kind of silly, but I still do them. It's like I put away like at least one set of the check lane blisters, one set of the 3-pack blisters, and I do another set of like the single pack blisters, and I do another set of just the regular pack arts, and it just like adds on. And then if there's a really good promo and say like a 3-pack blister, like a perfect example would be the Umbreon. I loaded up on a lot of those 3-pack blisters. Believe it or not, the Battle Styles 3-pack blisters that had Jolteon, I really personally like that holo. So I loaded up on a bunch of those. Again, going back to Battle Styles, the single pack check lane blister that had Charmander on it, I really love that Charmander. I loaded up on a bunch of those check lane blisters. Now, that one did happen to be Battle Styles, which is not turning out to be, but has already proved itself to be the weakest set of all Sword and Shield. But it doesn't change the way that I like to do my purchases, and it's the same now, isn't it? It was the same years ago, and it will be the same years in the future, probably, where I'm always going to go after the products that I personally like. But when you start to talk about stuff like that, you look at like prices, you're like, holy cow, prices could start to add up pretty fast. But I see we got a couple people in the chat now. Let me know how the sound is for this. So people are asking, is that a green screen? That is not a green screen. This, so unless I could just do that, just pull things out of the green screen and start playing with it. But so what this is like, if you guys following the channel, if you're new to this channel, we do a lot of these lives. We do a lot of different videos. Recommend you hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button. But what I decided to do was, for a while, I was just filming out of my living room. And the simple fact was, before I had my son, his bedroom was the office. And then after he was born, I kind of got kicked out of there. So I lost my office because we still had our guest bedroom, but my wife wouldn't let me have the guest bedroom. So then when I started doing these Pokemon lives really early on at the beginning, it was just me and a laptop. And that's pretty easy, right? And then before I was doing lives, I was just doing like videos on my phone, bunch of memes and stuff like that. Literally, I know what it sounds like, a meme, but yeah, it was actual memes in a video, and that's how this channel started. But when I was, real early on, started recording videos, I just opened up my laptop. I had the built-in laptop camera, the built-in microphone, and then that was how I did these real early on lives. And then eventually you got to upgrade, and then you got to get a new camera, then the microphone. And then after a while, I started to really host a lot of lives. You can't do this all off a laptop. You have to get yourself a gaming computer with, like upgraded software. Then you need 2 monitors. So then you have 2 monitors, the actual tower for your computer, the microphone, the camera. So all that added up, and it just got too hard to do it in the living room. And I said, I'm going to finally move my office down into the basement, because that's where I've always stored my collection. And some people have written on videos, they said, PK, we want to see your collection. And to show off my collection, it's very hard. So like, if you don't see right here, there's a huge light right here that is now blinding me. I've added so much lighting to this room. I added these shelves, new desk. It's beautiful, because now I could just come down here and just turn my computer on instantly and start making videos. But I probably will never go through this background again, but because it is the first time, I will kind of walk you guys through what like is on this background. And the fact is I was very particular with what I chose for the background, because I wanted to use things that represented like something that was special to me, or something that was special about my childhood. So if you look right here, you can see you got like the first 3 are pretty much Ninja Turtle stuff. So you got like super iconic Ninja Turtle cereal, and then you have all 4 of the figures. You got Leonardo, Donatello, Michelangelo, Raphael, and those are the turtles. And then, so right here, those are, because I'm still talking about Pokemon, the trading card game. This is an Ninja Turtles TCG, or not trading card, but trading cards, you call them. So that's Series 1, Series 2 booster box. And then right there, you can't do videos like this without at least throwing up one Beanie Baby. So when I was a kid, I did collect Beanie Babies, but I only have 2 Beanie Babies left from when I grew up. And that's one of them. That's like the Garcia bear. It's the one of the only 2 Beanie Babies I have left. And then you got a Duff bear. And then I'm a huge Simpsons fan. So you got the 1990 Rolling Stones cover with Bart Simpson on it. It's got like that real OG Simpsons type hand-drawn artwork feel to it. And then this is, what is this? Bart Simpson's Guide to Life right there. And in there, I actually had like a bunch of notes that I had like wrote when I was a kid. And then the Simpsons #1, the comic, graded. Then right here, you have Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, and then Pokemon Gold. These were the games I grew up with. Like one of the reasons I got into Pokemon. And then right there is just like a real cool magazine with like some pretty awesome hand-drawn artwork. It's like a PSA magazine from 1997 that kind of talks about like popularity of Pokemon. And then like in the middle right here. So right here in the middle, this is like my favorite card growing up. And it was the only baseball card I have up there, but I was kind of a baseball card collector as a kid. And that's an actual Nolan Ryan rookie card. That's a real Nolan Ryan. It was like my dream card growing up. It was the only card I ever wanted. And I was actually given that for Christmas. And I remember opening it up and being so excited. It was like at the time my holy grail. And I don't really have a lot of baseball cards, but that's still my holy grail. And then I put one booster box up there. And I thought long and hard about what booster box would I want to put up there. But because we talk about modern so much, because we enjoy modern, I put my favorite modern booster box of all time, and that's Cosmic Eclipse. And then like G.I. Joe, like everyone had their favorite G.I. Joe growing up. For whatever reason, the G.I. Joe that's in there was like the G.I. Joe I always played with as a kid. So I just have one of those. And then obviously right here you got Nintendo 64. Nintendo 64 being the OG system. And I've talked about it on other lives before. I've talked about it on the podcast. GoldenEye, best game ever. So you got the GoldenEye box, and then I put the GoldenEye in the N64. And then right there, I don't know if you could see right there, I got a frame. .5 Expedition. So that's what's right there. And then like a off-center special delivery Charizard that I never planned to grade. And then right there is just some VHS movies. You got like GoldenEye again, Terminator 2, Jurassic Park. And then I was big into X-Men as a kid. So this is X-Men Series 4. It's like all the hollows. They're like the chase cards of it. And then there's a sealed box of Series 4 Marvel cards, sealed box of Series 2. And then right here, I've talked about like how I was into collectible currencies and stuff. Like these are just some currencies I have. Behind there, it's Skyridge theme decks. You got the Raichu toy from Burger King being Raichu, being the OG 99 Burger King. You can't not have it. And then right there is Power Rangers, Series 2 of the trading cards. And then some figures. These are my actual figures growing up as a kid. And then like the special edition Zords. And then right here, this is like I guess like a little bit of like the Pokemon shelf. So you have my actual book from the Pokemon League in 1999. That's my actual stamp book right there. And then that is a Raichu. If you know me, if you know this channel, Raichu is my favorite Pokemon. It is a card I always wanted as a kid that I was never able to get. So currently out of my collection, I'm trying to complete a master set in PSA grades between 1 and 10 with all subgrades in between. So that's 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. But currently the lowest grade I have in my personal collection is a 2. So I figured if I'm going to display any card, it's going to be the lowest graded one of my collection. So that's a good 2 or whatever, Shadowless Raichu. And if eventually I ever get a 1.5, that will take the place of the 2. And if I ever get the PR1 graded by PSA, that will definitely take that spot. And then we have a single pack original base set blister right here, but inside of it is not a base set pack. It is G.I. Joe pack, and this is from the Leonhardt pop-up shop. And then right behind there is a Charizard. That's my childhood base set Charizard that I graded, cracked, graded again. And then behind the Raichu is Black Star promo number 1, the Ivy Pikachu. It was like it was the card when I thought about as a kid, it was like the card I was most proud of. I thought it was such a cool, like rare card. None of my friends had it, even though growing up, you find out how not rare that card is, but it doesn't change the fact of the sentimental aspect of it for me being a kid. And then right behind that is the base set Mewtwo. It's the card that I graded a PSA 10. It was a card that I got to pull on the stage at the Leonhardt pop-up shop. So that was pretty awesome. And then Charizard UPCs, that's just blocking a bunch of PSA slabs. You got the little Rattle Jenny. And then this is just some graded slabs, and then some, OG regular Nintendo games. You got Mario 3, Tetris, and then my favorite game growing up, which is a game called Jackal. Now, I don't know if you guys know what Jackal is, but it was like a game where you more or less couldn't die while you were playing it. And being a kid who is like still very new to video games, I thought that was like the coolest game. And that was a game that me and my friends used to play all the time. So you guys got the tour. This is still like the test background. This will probably be the first and only time I'm ever actually going to go through the background, unless somebody, for whatever reason, like went out of their way to ask me questions. But every single thing up there is sentimental to me. A lot of the stuff that is currently up there, those are things that I acquired as a kid. And because I acquired as I'm a kid, they're way more sentimental and they mean way more to me than, any of the more flashier stuff that maybe I might have. And I wanted that background to be special to me. So hopefully I answer that. But now to kind of go back to the topic of this video, I know we went on a little bit of a tangent, but it starts off with talking about like if I were to pull the Moonbreon, no matter how much money that thing is worth, and no matter how stupid it would be if I decided to keep that card, especially if I graded it in a 10, because right now the market is paying a premium for that. But it goes to that second part of this live, and the second part of the title of this video is the internal debate of Pokemon investing. And the reason why I phrased it that way is the internal debate. And think about like what internal debate is. Internal debate is how you justify this hobby for yourself. It's not how I justify this hobby to you. It's not how somebody else in a Discord group justifies this hobby to you, or anybody you might be watching, or anybody you talk to. It's that internal debate you have to make the decision for. And why I say it's an internal debate is nobody's created equal in this hobby, and especially nobody's created equal in this hobby when it comes from like a financial standpoint. So when I'll get on these lives and I'll give you, my internal debate, and one of the big conversations, especially like modern Pokemon investing, is what I mentioned earlier. It's like just buy a case of every single set. For some people, one case of every single modern set is nothing. That is like a very, very small position. A lot of people are trying to complete, positions of in the hundreds of booster boxes. And then when it comes to graded cards, people are trying to create like massive positions and all this stuff. But you can never look at what other people are doing. You have to kind of look at yourself. And it's funny how the hobby has changed, especially when it comes to investing in sealed product. In the past, you would be few and far between to really find a lot of collectors who are holding on to multiple booster boxes of vintage sets. And that was because people weren't really and don't get me wrong, I'm going to say this with a grain of salt, because there's definitely people out there that were doing that were definitely acquiring massive, massive positions in vintage product. But the average person, they weren't really doing it from the investing standpoint. They're doing it from the collecting standpoint. So for somebody to have only one booster box of certain sets, like that was the norm. Or you would hear people talking about, one to collect, one to sell in the future, and then maybe one to open, so then three. And that was like maybe on the higher end. So I just feel that the hobby as a whole, the mindset now has changed drastically. Now, I don't know what that's going to mean for the short term or the long term. I think maybe for the short term, it just means like a ton of buying demand, a ton of pressure, a ton of people like wanting to acquire this product. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing booster box shortages at such a high end, and definitely seeing prices start to exponentially go up when you can still pick up the packs from that at substantially less amount of money, whether you're going to, cannibalize collection boxes, or you could just walk into like your local Walmarts or Targets and still get lucky and pick up some of these packs. Like even a set that's as expensive as Evolving Skies. Evolving Skies is creeping up on like $300 per booster box, which is a crazy price when you think about a set that's only like a year and a half old. That is an insane dollar amount. But you now have, and so it begs the question, right? A lot of people say, well, people aren't just, invested in these booster boxes. People are opening these booster boxes. And that is an argument that a lot of people have made for a lot of time, or for a long time, especially recently when it comes to modern product. But where that argument kind of loses its traction a little bit is when you see Evolve and Sky selling at $300 a booster box. I don't personally think that people buying Evolve and Skies at $300 are people opening Evolve and Skies, because there's just way too many cheaper options out there where, like I said, you can pick that product up for drastically less than the $300 per booster box. So now that brings into this other question, which it's going to be something that I'm going to struggle with today, I'll struggle with tomorrow, and I'll struggle with in a week and a month and a year from now. Will always be for me where I struggle at high prices like that, especially when it comes to modern product, is I always ask the question, who's the person buying Evolve and Skies at $300? And the reason why I say who's the person, because I've talked about this opportunity cost, and I've talked about opportunity cost in a more flippability aspect, like turning and burning money, keeping money active so I could keep acquiring stuff. But it's also opportunity cost in if somebody is doing that, because I do believe anybody buying Evolve and Skies at $300 is buying it as an investment. I can't get around the question of why didn't they already have positions in Evolve and Skies? Why weren't they already buying Evolve and Skies when it went down to 90, or when we had that day where it was on Pokemon Center for like 144, or when they saw prices start going up to 150, 160, 170 after that final wave hit? Why now? And that is a conversation and a debate I'll never understand. And it's the same thing with like a lot of products. I think people only ever want to look at like, what is the winning product? And I only want to purchase that product when it's on the up trajectory or when it's at the highest. I don't know why that mindset exists. And there's a lot of products out there like that. I think like a good example would be like Charizard UPCs, stuff like that. Charizard UPCs right now, you could pick them up between like $90 and $100. That is still a product that has 16 packs in it, 3 Charizard promos, the playmat, the coins, the dice. And yeah, that thing got printed to oblivion. There's a ton of them in the today. And then when I look at, well, what would I rather purchase? Would I rather pick up 3 Charizard UPCs? So that's 32 packs plus another 16 is 48 packs. You're going to get 6 of those packs are going to be Evolve and Skies anyways, or do I want to buy 1 Evolve and Skies booster box? And then on top of that, you're going to get 9 total Charizard promos between the 3 Charizard UPCs. But that's like not the hot product right now. And I have a feeling that when that product does start to go on the uptick, and eventually it will, we just are today. Again, keep in mind when it comes to this hobby, when you're living in the today, you're only going to see the prices of today. Excuse me. If Professor Oak is out there, I just sneezed. A shout out to Professor Oak. So when you live in the now and the today, people are going to look at those low prices and be like, this is not a good product. But I have a feeling in a year from now, I don't think Charizard UPCs is going to be a product that we continue to see like reprints. We probably are going to continue to see like multiple waves of this product, trickling out for a little while. But like actual reprints, where I'm talking like true print capabilities of Pokemon Center, not multiple waves, reprints. I don't think we ever see a reprint. I think the wave system's still going to come. They're still available from distribution. But as that like wave system dries up, as that distribution dries up, we will start to see Charizard UPC prices increase. And then probably 2 years from now, when those things creep up to $160 to $200 per Charizard UPC, there'll probably be buyers of that Charizard UPC at 160 and 200. And then that will beg that question, and it will beg it. And I'll never have the answer to it, is why will somebody ever pick that product up at 160, 200? Because by that point, they will have had a million different entry opportunities. Like literally today is an entry opportunity in that. And it's just, I don't know. I don't know what causes that sort of like investment mindset to people where they need and they want, and it's like it grows inside them where they do not want to buy products until they start going up. And even in the near term, I think about the most modern sets. Battle Styles is out of print, or I shouldn't say out. Well, it is out of print, but it's out of rotation. So really, sets that are left in rotation, you're looking at Chill and Rain, Evolving Skies, Fusion Strike, Battle Styles, Astral Radiance, Lost Origins, and Silver Tempest. There was entry opportunities for every single one of those booster boxes. Silver Tempest was one of the few booster boxes, if you're not new to this channel, I made a live where I talked about picking up Silver Tempest booster boxes. I told you I had picked up 2 Silver Tempest booster boxes. I did not acquire a massive position in Silver Tempest. I did 1 booster box for me, and then I purchased 1 booster box for my son. And I talked about this on other lives. I'm picking him up 1 of every single booster box since the month he was born into inevitability, right? But I'm not picking up like specialty collection boxes or anything like that. So, no Charizard UPCs or no Pokemon Go or no, like whatever the most newest like specialty set is. I'm only picking up 1 of every booster box. So for Silver Tempest, at $100, I picked up 1 booster box for my personal collection and then 1 booster box for his booster box collection. And that's it. And the reason why, if you go back to that live and you listen to what my words were, was I didn't know what that booster box was going to do. It was one of the very, very few times in this hobby, like I literally had no clue. I didn't know if we were going to see multiple waves. I didn't know if we are going to see like massive reprints where that thing gets pushed down to $80, which is still definitely possible. That is a super modern set, which is to talk about literally the most modern, the newest set. Maybe getting a reprint, maybe not getting a reprint is an absolutely ridiculous conversation to even have in the first place. And you shouldn't even really be wasting your time. But I did that and I just had no clue. So I said, I'm just going to pick up 2 at $100 a piece. And I just threw my hands up in the air and I said, I don't know what they're going to do. And right now we haven't really seen massive reprints of them. Booster prices for that booster box have creeped up to like 110 or whatever, which is still like super low. And I just looked at it as like what my downside risk was going to be. And my downside risk, in my opinion, was like $80. I lose 20% on my 1 booster box, which I'm not going to sell because it's part of my personal collection. And then 20% of my son's booster box. And my son is not even 2 yet. So he's not selling that thing in anytime soon. So I just didn't even worry about it, picking up at 100, where I don't know what the freaking market's gonna do on a daily basis. I really don't. And I don't know. I don't know what changes too. And I was really starting to think before this too, is what's like a lot of money in this hobby? And I don't know. Because I think about a lot of money as I think about like booster box cases. How much are those? But then I think about like expensive graded cards, and there's so much money still in this hobby that everything doesn't make sense, but then everything does make sense at the same time. And I know how stupid that sentence just sounds, where I could say something, nothing makes sense, but everything makes sense. Where nothing makes sense because you ask the question of like, why are people spending so much money on stuff? But then at the same time, you can justify like a lot of these higher end purchases. When you're talking about like real rare scarce, you know, real rare scarce chase cards from like some vintage sets, low PSA populations, especially when you're talking about condition rarity, stuff like that. And you see some of these cards selling for like between $5,000 and $3,000 for some of this mid-era stuff. And you're able to kind of in a way justify like what these prices are. So it's weird that you're able to like justify some stuff, but then you struggle with others. And I don't think that's a conversation that ever really ends. I know that was a little bit of a tangent. I was trying to get my thoughts as clear as possible, but I don't think I was able to really pull it out. But yeah, either way, this is the new setup. One of the best things about this setup is when I come here, I just get to turn on my computer and start pumping out videos, and videos are going to get pumped out pretty quickly. But now I'm going to go to the top of the chat. I'll see if you guys wrote anything, if you guys have any questions, and we'll try to answer questions for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes. And then that'll be it. This will be the very first test stream of the new location, the new background. And if you guys actually want to see some cards now, they're like, I got cards here, I got cards there, I got everything's like off camera. I got it. If you want to see it, I don't have my most recent PSA return. I didn't bring that downstairs. I should have brought that down. But got a lot of graded cards right there. This I got. Oh, hold on. So I mentioned on one of my more recent videos, I did one of my my most recent PWCC purchase is this. It's a EX Team Rocket Returns Moltres and a PSA 9. Super old cert number. Like if you, I'll show you guys the cert, and then if you guys know the real old PSA backs. But it, $222 for this card. It was just it was a buy I wanted. And then we got like, I don't know if we want to go. Do we want to go? Well, we won't go through the whole select stack, but there's a bunch of just cards here. A lot of Skyridge cards, a lot of reverse hollows, a lot of duplicates of some stuff. For whatever reason, I have way too many Pillow Swines from Skyridge. But yeah, we'll go through. We could start doing this if like cards come up or different things. We could start pulling out cards, showing off the collection a little bit by little. So that's fun, especially now that we got the light in. I don't know if I could like get that. Yeah, you can't see it, but it's a bright light shining me directly in the face. All right. So we got Pokemon Collector in the chat. Good to see you, bud. We got Drew. I told Drew I was going to send him a package, and Drew, I got your stuff pulled out, but I just haven't sent it. I've been dragging my feet. I'm very sorry for that. We got Kevin Clear. Cheval says leveling up in 2023. Yeah, does this make me like an actual PokeTuber now that I got an actual background? People, Ancient Mueller saying watching Rattle's Moonbreon opening was a little painful. Yeah, it's tough to see Rattle go through that. We got Local Los Collection says, hello, PK. Just finished watching the replay of Rattle CTB opening. I do, yeah, it's a Grail card now. It's weird. I like I said, I am never going to purchase that card on the secondary market, but I will definitely, if I ever pull that card, be keeping it as part of my personal collection. I'm trying to think if there's any cards. There is a card. Oh, I won't be able to find it. But I do have a card that I've recently pulled and I graded myself. That's like probably should sell. It's a modern 10. It's the Mimikyu from Brilliant Stars. It's the one where he's watching TV. It's like the character rare card. I graded that card a 10 and I actually just kept it as part of my personal collection because it was a card I really like a lot. And it was one of the things I've said on this channel a million times is you should never be buying modern 10s. You should always be selling them. And now while I didn't buy that card in a 10, I graded it myself as a 10, but I should be selling that onto the market because this is probably where the market's going to value that card at the most currently right now. But I just like that card so much. I'm going to keep it as part of my PC. I recently graded a shitload of on the ball Pikachus. I'm keeping one of those 10s for part of my personal collection. On the ball Pikachu, probably a card that I should be, liquidating, flooding out to the market. But instead, I'm going to keep one of my many 10s and keep it for myself. Some of those cards are going to Z and G for not this week's auction, but next one. So if you guys want to bid on some of my on the ball Pikachus, feel free to go to the Z and G's auction block in like a week or two as soon as he gets those cards. Which Z and G, his costs right now for consignment are pretty low at 13.5%. So I guess we could officially say to him, congratulations, James, for your, new rate with eBay, because there's no way you have the old rate at eBay with those prices. So big congrats for you if that's the case. I think he's going to start getting flooded pretty quick. And I know he's just doing graded cards. I'd be very curious what happens when some sports card consigners get wind of him having 13.5% consignment rates. So one day I'll pull it up. I emailed James before, like right when he did his very, very early, I'm going to start taking on consignment, stuff like that. I emailed him, and it was actually the first time I ever reached out to him. And then I said, I think what you're doing is going to be super successful in the future. And I think this business is going to grow a lot. And I'm going to try to find that email to read you exactly what I wrote to him, because he was filling a gap in this market. And I think that big gap that was left in the market was PWCC. There was a glory time with PWCC auctions on eBay, a ton of lives. It became very well apparent. Everybody knew when PWCC lives were going up. And if people weren't super engaged and didn't even like understand what PWCC maybe was, they at least understood that there was all these cards going to auction on the market, and then people were just paying crazy prices. You had a lot of what I consider to be maybe undereducated buyers with eyes on PWCC. And the reason why I said maybe they were just a little bit of undereducated buyers, because a lot of these auctions were going for greater than eBay buy it now prices. And in my opinion, anybody who's paying more at auction than they can to pick up that same card at a buy it now auction is probably a little bit of a undereducated buyer than somebody who would just say, okay, what is the highest buy it now, or what's the lowest price buy it now? So I know to try to get this card for cheaper than this buy it now. And if I really want that card enough and I lose it at auction, I'll just go pick it up at the lowest buy it now price. And for whatever reason, that wasn't happening. So that's why I said I think it was like the undereducated buyer was doing a lot of those purchases. And again, a lot of these PWCC auctions, this is in the booms and the heyday of making money in Pokemon, and some unrealistic prices that we may never see again. Some cards have retraced, some cards have made it back, but there is a good amount of cards that potentially saw all-time highs. So, let's see. So Matt 420 said, you start out as a collector and down the line you turn into an investor. Yeah. I think when it comes to like some really old vintage stuff too, you definitely became an investor. And I say this all the time, like people that were super passionate about Pokemon, people that acquire pretty massive positions, they became investors by default. And the reason why they became investors by default was because they saw growth in almost every single product they own. And whether or not they really cared about the money at the time, they had no choice. But when they started to see these extremely high numbers happen. So that's a good comment by Matt M, that you start out as a collector, but you turn into an investor. And one of the things about me is, one of the reasons I'm so actively engaged in what you would consider like the investability of Pokemon is because something I've mentioned now on a million different videos is, in order for me to grow my personal collection, I have no choice but to turn and burn and sell cards that I think are overvalued into the market in order to free up capital to continue to acquire more and more of my collection. Or just like a lot of people out there who maybe are just sealed modern collectors, like I said, to buy a sealed case and one sealed case of Pokemon Center ETBs, you could be talking to close to like $1,000 per set. $1,000 per set for a lot of people out there can be a lot of money. And especially when you have 4 sets a year, that's $4,000. It adds up. And now that's assuming you're not really buying much of anything else. Now, if you do want to, dabble into the graded card market, if you guys have graded a lot of cards, you understand how expensive it is, even at $15. Let's say you have 100 cards you want to grade. That's still $1,500. And if you're not selling any of those cards into the market, the prices start to add up throughout the hobby. Now you're talking $4,000 for different sets, and that's like the four main sets, and then added on with your specialty sets. So you're looking about $4,000 a year just on that. If you want to grade 100 cards in a year, that's another $1,500. If you want to pick up any vintage cards, you got to add in those prices. If you want to do all these like little things, all these little nuances in the hobby, the dollar amounts and the price tag can start to add up relatively quickly. And for some people, like a $10,000 bill a year is nothing, but for some people, like a $10,000 bill a year is a lot, where the only way they could justify that $10,000 is if maybe they're selling into the market $10,000. So it's like a 1-to-1. And then even at that point, they don't really become a collector either, or an investor at that point. They're still a collector, for me personally, when somebody says they're like picking up 1 or 2 booster boxes, I still look at that as more of a collector than I do an investor. An investor in this market is somebody that's acquiring like pretty large positions. Now, that's why it goes back to what Matt M said is even though I might only think if you're only picking up 1 or 2 booster boxes, that still defines you as a collector, but that's not really true because even collectors just become investors by default. So that's why I think Matt's comment was so great. So the days of collecting 1 or 2 booster boxes, maybe that's back in a way where you just become investors by default. And I think there are some people out there who do have that mindset where they don't care what their collection does. They don't care if it crashes down to 0 and everything is worth nothing because then they could just buy up everything. I think people say that, but I don't think people really mean that because for some people, when you have like that big chase card, and that big chase card could be like $2, $3, $4, $5,000, to justify spending $5,000, that's a lot of money that like your family could use. $5,000, that's a nice vacation. That's a vacation for a family of 4 to spend $5,000. And not only is it a vacation, it's a nice vacation. So for you to then have the same mindset of, well, I don't care if this $5,000 card goes to 0. I don't care. I just want it. And that's a tough conversation to have. So yeah, you become investor by default. And then it's another conversation of whether or not you're able to part with that card. But I think the collector mindset is so important into the hobby for the longevity of Pokemon investing because you need product to get absorbed and locked up into the hands of collectors. You know, that flipper mindset, that's not going to be great for the longevity of value of products. You need eventually like attrition rates to just happen where products are constantly like being locked up and call it people's grandma's basements and stuff like that. You can't have that product constantly be changing hands left and right. And I think there are examples of that in super modern times. And, you know, we talk about one of the most hyped booster boxes of all time being Evolutions, and it's a fair argument. But when you break down what happened with Evolutions, the problem with Evolutions was available from distro forever. You could pick up Evolutions booster boxes from the end of XY all the way up to like early Sword and Shield before those booster boxes, you know, were evaporated off the market. So because you might have had people acquiring those, you know, bringing them into their personal collection because they were still readily available at distribution, because people that had, you know, massive lots of these things, because they were still available, prices were handcuffed. They were unable to go up. Now, whether or not you fundamentally believe in that product, like me personally, I don't fundamentally believe in what Evolutions is when you really peel back everything. It doesn't change the facts that the collection or the collector aspect of this hobby was able to acquire that and absorb all those booster boxes from the market. It just took a half decade for that to happen. That is very stale money for a long term, very long time. You know, $80 booster box going to 100, going back down to 80, and then staying at 80 for years. But then you can look at, it's a hard conversation to have is, well, look at what they are now. Even in a 5-year timeline, that investment is still a good investment. And I'm not going to really argue with that. It's just a crazy thought. And if you guys are following my shorts, I do have a short coming on the channel, and that's this. It's the Beckett price guide from January 19th, 2003. And it's got Ash. Oh, it's got Ash there, and he's got Yugi's outfit on, and then got Yugi, and he's got Ash's like Pokemon trainer outfit on. So I always like, and then you know you got Pikachu right here in like that Yu-Gi-Oh style, and then the Blue Eyes White Dragon in more like the Pokemon Charizard style. So I just always thought that this cover art was awesome. But what this has in the back is it has, well, first of all, it has the top 10 hottest Pokemon. And what's more fitting than the fact that the original Moonbreon is right there? I mean, that's pretty wild. So to have the Neo Discovery Umbreon, I said Umbreon. But more importantly, at the back of this magazine is a price guide. And this price guide has prices for every single set. First edition base, unlimited, jungle, fossil, base set 2, Team Rocket, the Neos, the gyms, your legendary collection, expedition, and then that's where it ends. But then it also has all the Japanese sets, and it has the prices, and it even has the prices of like Burger King cards. It has everything. And then it has the prices of how much all like the video games, the Game Boy games, you got Pokemon Blue, Crystal, Gold, Green, Pinball, Red, Silver, and it has the low end and the high end for all these. And so every single day there's going to be a new short and then it has all the Japanese sets too. This magazine's freaking awesome. But every day there's going to be a new short where I go over at least one set. So it started off with base set first edition. The video that was released this morning was unlimited base. Tomorrow's video has first edition jungle, and it's just going to be me showing the prices of every single one of them. And it's pretty wild. I mean, it's even got like the Japanese Pokemon e-card promo. So it's got all the McDonald's cards in it. It's a pretty intense magazine, and it's going to make for a fun watch. So if you guys stick around, and then, like I said, it even has Game Boy Advances, like the sealed specialty Pokemon Center Game Boy Advances, and what those prices are. This magazine's got everything. So, keep an eye out for all those shorts. It's definitely going to be worth it for you, especially if you guys like historic prices, stuff like that. Pokemon Collector said, this is not a green screen, is it? Nope. Johnny Bongo said, Cowabunga PK sounds fine. Sounds great. Everybody's saying the volume's good. That's good. B Alexander 2 said he started watching me when I did my first face reveal. Yeah, I'll tell you what, to do my first ever face reveal was a pretty nerve-wracking thing. And if you ever go back and like kind of watch that video, you could see like I'm nervous. I don't even remember what I talked about, but this channel started off as something and then just morphed into rants and just kind of morphed into me talking about my thoughts. Master Trainer Ryan said he thought PK was like 15 in the meme days. A lot of people thought that listening to my voice. We got Ancient Mew. We see him in the chat. He says he sees the golden eye up there. Yep. Collector Art House says, I didn't even know you could zoom with yourself. What a time to be alive. Yep. Let's see. So Loco Los Collection says he definitely has planned something like this. When he gets himself a bigger space, he'll be adapting to this also. Hope you don't mind. Yeah, man, no problem. So T White said, whoa, who's this guy all lit up like a I'm not gonna read that. That's pretty funny. I appreciate you though. Pokey Tyro said, hey, I don't show my face on YouTube because I loved your channel when no one knew what you look like. Haha. I think I should show my face. Nothing wrong with showing your face. Once you get over that, it just becomes part of it, right? A lot of people saying they're loving the setup. I appreciate it, guys. And like I said, that setup is special to me because every single thing back there has some kind of like sentimental reason for me, especially like through my childhood. But it is cold in my basement. That's why I have a sweatshirt on. It's one thing I don't have. Let's see. All right. That's about it. I want to keep this a live chat. This is kind of just my test run. I'm doing another pre-recorded video tonight now that I got my setup. I really feel like I could start pumping out some actually well-edited videos and not just all these lives. So with that said, appreciate every single one of you guys tuning in. It's always fun. You guys are what makes this hobby exciting. You guys are the reason why it's crazy how much painting I did. I painted the floors, I painted the ceiling, I painted the walls, I got the new desk, I got the new background. All this stuff was like in totes and stuff I pulled out. I spent a lot of time, but I did it because, I want to keep doing this and I enjoy you guys and I enjoy what you're doing. Just for me personally, like, can't thank you guys enough. You are what make this hobby fun for me. And I don't ever ask you for anything. The only thing I ever ask you for is do me 2 solids. 1, hit that like button if you haven't hit that like button. Do not be like Mason Berry. Mason Berry never hits like buttons on my video, and it drives me crazy. the second thing I ask all you guys to do is just hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Nothing. I can't thank you enough for just that. All right. But with that said, catch you guys on the next video.